Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined once again by Mark Gonzales over at First National Bullion. And we do have some breaking news. Israel has struck Iran, and this could be the beginning of what you might call the Iran war. And it's something that a lot of people loathe to hear. But of course, this is coming straight out as I speak. And by the time this video is up, who knows, Iran could strike back. I don't know yet, but I'm just going by these live updates. Israeli strikes target Iran's nuclear program. Residents of Tehran, the Iranian capital, reported hearing huge explosions in Iranian state television broadcast images of smoke and fire billowing from buildings. And you can see that in the capital. And of course, this is something that we've been assuming would happen soon. But Asia Pacific markets are falling as Israel conducts military strikes on Iran. Oil prices jump, which of course is interesting considering the context of what we saw with the Iraq war, which killed 2 million people, by the way. And of course, this is after literally an hour after I did a video saying Israel about to attack Iran. Trump claims plan is officially in place, where I got a bunch of people trolling me saying that I'm fear mongering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is just fine because I expected when I say, hey, Iran says this, Israel says this, the United States government says this, oh, it must be fear mongering, it must be nonsense. Well, it's happening now, as just hours before I did that video, Iran had threatened nuclear escalation after UN watchdog board finds it in breach of obligations, as of course US to partially evacuate embassy in Iraq as Iran tensions rise. But something funny is going on. If you look at the gold price right now, hours before this happened, we saw a massive amount of people buying up. Someone knows something, don't they? Maybe one could say, oh, well, it's because of the threats. Maybe they anticipated it, but it's hours and hours going before this actual story came out. So one has to think maybe, just maybe, someone knows something, kind of like Larry Silverstein buying up the insurance on the World Trade Center like a few days before 9/11. But anyway, I wanted to go into this with you guys. And of course, it's very important that we understand like millions of people's lives are at risk with this. It's an absolutely horrible thing, and it's manufactured. It needs to be understood that it's manufactured, but this could have massive consequences on the global economy. And it has massive consequences that could involve emergency orders, including shutting down your bank. I don't want to fearmonger. I want to give solutions. So before we get into this more with Mark, I urge you to check out firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. And there you could avoid the future CBDCs, digital IDs, food rations, these kinds of things that they're trying to push on you. And you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, put that gold or silver in your hands in a vault or in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. There, you could schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzales and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know in the comments of the forum that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Okay, Mark, this is big news. As you sat down and we're about to do another video, then this comes up. And again, by the time this is out, Iran could have struck back. Though sometimes they're very calculated with this. But I wanted to talk about the global economy as a whole when we're facing down a major war like this, because this would make the Iraq war look like child's play. And we're talking about another thing that the Israelis have lobbied the U.S. Congress on, just like they did with the Iraq war. And, you know, they never let a good crisis go to waste. So what do you think this could do to the dollar, to people's bank accounts, to the economy overall?
Well, interesting enough, I think longer term or midterm and long term nowadays can be like 5 to 6 months. You're not necessarily talking years, but in the short term, almost immediate term, I think you could see some dollar strength. It just as that flight to what is perceived to be the safe liquidity. So that's kind of the first thing. But interesting thing enough on that chart that you posted. So this story broke about 1 to 2 hours ago. That spike immediately coming out of Asia, that was about 4 hours ago. So someone knew, right? Someone ran this damn thing, and I think gold and silver are going to play a massive role as a flight to safety, as well as the dollar just for the liquidity measures. But the article I think you raised that you're already seeing a drawdown in the equities or a pullback in the equities in Asia based upon this, and you're also seeing a spike in oil. So gold, silver, oil, resources like that, coming out of the Middle East, those are gonna spike gold and silver, basically just because most people view it as a hedge, a chaos hedge. I'm here to tell you, not only is you view it as a hedge, but it's money, people. It is the actual money. Everything else is just the accounting measure of it, and it always rises to absorb a default going from one structure to another. So I think this is very big. This is also coming on the heels of what's been going on in LA to create that narrative. And then also what Trump has already put the nail in the coffin for the future market or margin event decline by enforcing tariffs as rapidly as he did. And the problem is dollar strength initially, but long term, I don't think anybody's going to trust it. And this goes all the way back to us sanctioning Russia. I mean, you just seen dollar decline ever since then, and gold positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we have to also understand that it was just weeks ago when Trump announced that he was putting a $1 trillion budget into defense. And of course, that's the largest defense spending budget ever. He said to protect Israel, to annex Palestine, and to go after Iran. This is something that I find so incredibly manufactured. I've gone into in my previous video on Israel to attack Iran, which was unfortunately like not. I'd like to say I'm Nostradamus here, but I'm not. It's clear what they're doing. They're laying out the groundwork for what they would call the New World Order, but of course, overall a reset and a massive power shift. And one of the main parts of that being the global economy. And in my previous video, I went into the details of the history of this, Iran being a proxy for years, and then the Ayatollahs taking over and then getting armed and funded by the CIA. And of course, this constant circle of manufactured chaos, because out of chaos comes order, and that's what they're doing. And it's part of the 7-country plan General Wesley Clark talked about in the 1990s to go after all of these countries. Iran is the last one, and a big part of the Greater Israel Project, which I can't really go into if I want this video on YouTube. That's why you should follow us on Rumble and BitChute, by the way. But what I'm seeing here is the introduction of one of the largest scale wars we've seen in history, the first one possibly utilizing totally AI and robotics. Not that your son and daughter can't be sent off to die in Iran, which is a very much a possibility, because I mean, if the U.S. gets involved in this, which I think they will, because Trump is very Israel first and they're very Israel friendly, it could involve catastrophe. Remember, Trump has said previously that he wants to obliterate Iran. Believe Netanyahu when Netanyahu claimed that he was almost assassinated by Iranians, which is absurd to even think of. It's a joke, but of course Israel said it, so it must be true. And then, of course, Pete Hegseth has talked about obliterating Iran. Marco Rubio helped arm ISIL and ISIS back in 2011, 2012. So, I mean, where are people at if they think that this is going to be a peaceful administration? Trump killed the Iranian General Soleimani back in 2020, the beginning of 2020 in Iraq. And then the Iraqi parliament voted the U.S. out of Iraq, and the U.S. said, no, we're going to stay. So much for spreading democracy in the Middle East. So again, what we're dealing with is the pretext to something very big. And I think one of the platforms it stands on is the global hegemony system. And what we're dealing with here could absolutely eviscerate the global economy. And I'm not saying that to be, bombacious, or I'm not trying to say this in order to be a fear monger, but what we're seeing is on the table. It's clear, and it's not a coincidence that they just happen to be bringing out digital IDs, food rations, and conscription with the CBDC at the same time. Mark, in an emergency orders. We talked before about the United Nations Pact for the Future. If you say negative things about the government or the narrative, they could shut down your bank account. They could issue you credits, carbon credits, social credits, whatever it might be. And they're bringing in this Palantir biometric system. To me, this seems like the perfect excuse to bring in that digital system of control out under the guise of an emergency. And if you don't like it, you hate America. What do you think?
I think you're 100% right. I didn't know what event it was going to be, and I'm not saying that this is the one. Yeah. Right? There's been plenty of events over the last year, 2 years that could be considered the one, but it's just it's conditioning everybody for what's coming. And that Pact of the Future, interesting you brought that up. You're right. You speak out against the government. If you're a dissident, the whole digital ID system that is being put into place. We're going to have a digital currency in this country with the Genius Act. Europe has also claimed that they're going to have, or stated very boldly that they're going to have the digital currency.
And by the way, 193 countries signed on to the UN Pact for the Future. So your country's involved unless you're in, like, I don't know, maybe Central African Republic or something. So, I mean, you guys have been signed on to this already, just so you know.
Yeah, so I've been wondering what event it was going to be that, okay, here, You just take what's coming to you. But it seems like all systems are replaced, and now it's all systems are go. I don't know if this is going to be the exact event. It's definitely going to be a major event leading to another one if it is not the event that's going to switch us to that system. But the system, keep in mind, is already in place. When they voted on that Pact of the Future, it's not like they were voting and then all of a sudden they got to build out of a surveillance and a digital system. That's been going on for some time. Everything with Palantir that's happening right now, everything with the ECB or the European Union saying that they're going to commit $1.3 trillion to the digital ID program targeted majority towards surveillance. I mean, this is just icing on the cake. So we're very, very close to there. And it's kind of crazy because this is all happening when the entire market is just on such a hairy trigger that anything could blow this thing up. But I do think it's dollar positive initially, but that fades very, very fast. This is ultimately massively big for gold and silver.
Remember that the Iraq war, in many ways, it wasn't the only reason, but among many, that we saw the financial crash later on of several years later of in 2007, 2008. Now, of course, that wasn't based entirely on that, but there was already a bubble that was brewing at the time. And then the war came in, and then there's all this new manufacturing, and they say, oh, look at us, we're the greatest country in the world. And then people started to grow wary of that. Money was spent like it was chiclets. And of course, what we ended up seeing was a collapse of these bubbles. And we see so many of them right now, just in time for BlackRock to own all the property and for them to be bringing in digital IDs. I mean, the economy has been on such shaky footing for such a long time, and it just takes one major crisis. And it just happens that there are many major crises happening right now. Destruction of the supply chain across the board, which we're seeing at a record pace, 73-year low in cattle head in the United States, which we haven't. Keep in mind, there was only 1 billion people on Earth when we're at that previous record high 73 years ago. So we're talking about a much different situation than back then and far more dangerous. Again, a lot of solutions out there. Nonetheless, I know, and it hurts me to say this, most people will not take any of those solutions seriously. I hope those of you that are watching are different from them, because I mean, this is something that we're going to see snowball. And Mark, with what we've recently reported on, the debt crisis is through the roof, trillions being spent. Now we're going to see $1 trillion budget, the biggest before in history for war. And that's before this even struck. So if this goes full nuclear, and I say that no pun intended, then of course we could face even an addition to that budget that could be very drastic. And that could mean very, very big consequences for the so-called consumer in the United States. What do you think?
Oh, it's going to be horrible for the consumer. If we start blowing up the budget, especially with tariffs and less coming in here, you're going to have a inflationary spike like no other. And I think the bond markets are going to respond to that, and you're going to get a natural higher rise in interest rates. So anybody with adjustable rate mortgages, they're tough in a tough spot. Anybody looking to get a house, you're going to be canceled out of the market, car market, anything like that, even credit cards. You're going to start to see a lot of defaults. It's also very concerning to me that all this is going into as you said, with the shortage and you're talking about the cattle. So that trickles into a lot of other aspects of what people use on a daily basis. And I will tell you this, don't be fooled with dollar strength. Don't be fooled with the stimulus programs. Don't be fooled with all this stuff, because all this is, in my opinion, when you're about ready to rob the bank, when you're about ready to bankrupt the business, which the U.S., in my opinion, is going to go to a bankruptcy status. When you're about ready to hit that final switch and all systems go for digital ID, digital currencies, you blow the hell out of it, right? Because you're just going to write that shit off anyway. So I think people should see this for what it is. I would see the stimulus or the war effort spending just go through the absolute roof, because we're going to go through a reprice and bankrupt anything anyway. Gold and silver is really the only insurance that you can have, or the only money you can have outside of a defaulted currency that you can own and possess with zero counterparty risk, no matter what the hell happens in the world.
Absolutely. And again, if you want to know where the future is, look what they're doing privately, because we see the market rise right before this even happens. Someone knows something, and maybe you should be listening to, well, you should be listening to us and not do what they say, but do as they do, maybe, perhaps, because we're seeing the evidence in front of our eyes with gold right here. And of course, we don't know where this is going to go short term, but long term, I know 100% where this is going to go. And this is an investment advice. Of course, we're talking about wealth insurance here, not an investment, in my opinion. But I think that we're going to see an absolute shock to the system, and we're going to see gold and silver hit things no one could ever imagine. Just looking at the debt clock here, because I have it up, we're at $36.97 trillion in debt in the United States. And of course, you look at the dollar to silver ratio, 5-year and 10-year. You have the gold to silver ratio, 5-year to 10-year. I mean, we're looking at most likely, and Mark has mentioned this before in past videos, much more than this. This is like child's play compared to what it could be. And of course, we have to consider inflation and all these other things and the shift into bricks. People are trying to protect themselves in their own ways, and the elites always seem to do it first, just like they're building bunkers for some reason right now across the board. So as we close this off, I urge people to take those solutions seriously. We have this right here. firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. There you could buy physical gold and silver, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Again, this is a way to get out of that CBDC system, get out of the ration system that they're trying to build right now, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzales and a complimentary investors package. There you can let him know in the form when you sign up in the comment section of it that you found him at World Alternative Media or WAM, WAM. I would be remiss to not mention 2 more solutions here in this video today as we close it off, because we talked about cattlehead and everything, and we're talking about a war here, and they want you on rations. So you have to protect your money and you have to protect your food, which is itself another currency. And I want to urge people to also check that link in the description for whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life freeze dried steak, 12 servings per bag. There's also chicken and ground beef as well. Use code WAMBEEF, WAMBEEF, all one word, and you will get 20% off. And of course, heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, WAM, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on these items. I think it's important that everyone takes all the solutions seriously and creates a multi-tiered solution system for themselves so that they don't have to live in fear. This isn't about fear. This is about having solutions. This is about doing the right thing for yourself and your family so you aren't left behind. And no one is going to save you in the government. Waiting for the government to save you is akin to sitting on your hands, my friend. So if anything, when they go to help you, they'll give you a nice, good digital little wallet that'll give you your Soylent Green and make you very happy for the time being, owning nothing. And of course, as the World Economic Forum says, essentially placated on drugs, playing video games. That's what Yuval Noah Harari said he dreams of. All these governments are implementing his strategies. Maybe it should concern you. And this is happening. By the way, I almost forgot to mention these strikes on Iran are happening during Bilderberg. We always know every time anything happens at Bilderberg, something happens right after. And of course, this time they wasted no time. It's happening during the event. So now we get to look forward to what, if this is what's happening during Bilderberg, what's going to happen at Davos later on. It'll be interesting. Nonetheless, I don't want people to live in fear. I want people to have solutions. So check that out. Again, that's firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. Check it out. Has to be that link. It's in the description of our videos. Get a hold of Mark. I appreciate it, Mark. As we close it off, any final words?
If you want to have a conversation, whether you've been considering this or expanding the portfolio or adjusting the portfolio, let's have a real conversation. Fill out the information and you'll be contacted with solutions.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Mark, as always, for your insights. And we'll be back with much more. And who knows what other breaking news we're going to be slapped by. But just to let you guys know, we have some big interviews coming up with Christian Yordanov and the one and only G. Edward Griffin. Yes, the guy who wrote Creature from Jekyll Island, who we're happy to be good friends with. And I'm looking forward to updating you on that. But if you're watching on YouTube, you probably won't see most of that. So make sure to go and follow us on Rumble and BitChute at World Alternative Media. Anyway, I appreciate it. And until next time, my friends, this is Josh Sigurdson and Mark Gonzales signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.